Do my eyes deceive me? Was this a wholesome episode of Dororo? There was no hint, or there wasn't any sad conclusion with this episode. In fact, everyone survived. No one died whatsoever. Even the people that had some of their life force sucked out technically did not die and had no permanent negative effects applied to them. So, yeah, for once we actually had a happy episode in this series. Very, very different. Distinctively different compared to the previous episodes of this series. And this really, I have to say, changes, I think, many people's outlooks on the demons, or the yokai, etc., etc., because the Spider-Woman that we saw within this episode, at first glance, when you see her design at the beginning of the episode, she seems like a monster, she looks like a monster, and it doesn't seem like she's going to really, relatively be a good person. Like, Haya is going to go after her, bring her down. But come to find out, though, as the episode progresses, she really isn't that bad as an individual. She actually has her own moral code, and she doesn't really want to kill anyone, and actually end their life. She just wants to have kind of like a relationship that's mutual. She takes some life force from people. Obviously, it's not permanent damage. They don't die. But in turn, because of that, you know, they keep living, and she's able to live on and move on as well. So, I think this was the first time we've actually seen in the story a friendly demon. A demon that, honestly, is very different from anything else we have seen. And it's clear as day because of the description of this ghoul slash yokai. It's not actually a creature that has stolen anything from Haya. Because we gotta remember that there's 12 demons that stole his body parts. And we do know that there is another tier separated from the demons that are a part of the statues that, you know, Haya's father worshipped. And so we know this Spider-Woman probably isn't necessarily connected to the main demons that he needs to hunt down. But this also opens the door up for, you know, demons and stuff that are not necessarily evil. They might have their own things about them that seem like they might not be good for humanity, but in reality, they aren't necessarily evil. So, I like this episode, because these type of stories is something I'm a big fan of. It's one of the things that I've always loved in literature, and why I've, you know, read or watched a lot of stuff in media with, like, romance stories between, like, a demon and a human or something. Like, I mean, I can think of a couple. Like, let's think about Inuyasha. Let's think about Vampire Knight. I mean, there's some really interesting stories that I've seen over the years with themes like this, you know, themes to where these two people should not really be in a relationship together, and that's kind of what happened. This demon Spider-Woman, she was someone that, honestly, before she even met the human in this episode, she wasn't relatively bad. She never killed anyone, but she still fed upon them, and she never really tried to make any bond with anyone. And then she encounters this dude that respects all life. He actually cares about people, and, you know, he acts very different. He gives up his own food just so she can be able to survive and live on. It struck a chord within her, and she was able to realize that, you know, this is the first time she's ever seen someone look at her in a way that doesn't make her feel like she's an absolute monster, disgusting, and that she just needs to get out of there. And so I respect that. I like this episode for just how different it was, because it now means that there can be demons in this story that are not evil, and that when Haya confronts them, you know, it's not going to be like, oh, he has to take them down, that's the end of them. There could be other circumstances to where they can move on and even change as a person, which I like that. But let's get right into it. Now, the reason why I said this was a wholesome episode and why it was just such a happy episode was because all of this episode, like the entirety of this episode, with the summary of it, to the setup and everything, it has so much potential to turn into an absolute tragedy. Because, I mean, think about it. We have a Romeo and Juliet type love here, like where it shouldn't be. You have this, you know, Spider-Woman that obviously, normal circumstances, nobody would really want anything to do with her. You have this dude that's a kidnapper, but in reality, he's not really kidnapping people. He's just smuggling people out of the village to be able to save them. I mean, there was just so much setup for things to go wrong. Not to mention Haya being an individual that doesn't really understand between good or evil, really, because, I mean, all he knows is, you know, he's lacked everything at a young age, and he's slowly been gaining things, and so he doesn't really know or is able to tell what's good or bad throughout a demon, besides, I guess, you know, seeing the soul of an individual. And in this case, the episode had a setup to where Haya and Dororo could have been like the evil guys of this episode, you know, killed, you know, the Spider-Woman, and then made the dude that was kind of like the kidnapper very upset, sad, and lonely, and he might have went off and let himself die or something. You know, there was a lot of setup for something like that to happen, and when, you know, the episode was getting to that point where Haya was in front of them, I thought it was going to happen. I think many watching this episode probably believe that exact same thing. Like, you know, they're going to die. And Haya is being set up as a villain. And I think it would have been a really interesting theme if it did happen, like hypothetically, if this woman did somehow steal anything from Haya, it would have been interesting if he would have killed her, gained back his eyesight, and he was able to see her body when she died, because then when he gained back his eyesight, he's able to see an individual that looks very similar to him or anyone around him, which in turn would be like keeping the theme of what's happened to Dororo every time he has gained something back. Remember, every time, you know, he's gained something back, something really bad has happened for the first time. When he gained back his hearing, he heard, you know, this sister crying over her deceased brother. You know, when he got his voice back, he cried out in pain. His feeling, you know, his feeling of his body, he felt like wounds all over his body as soon as he gained back the sense of feeling. I mean, just so many things that's happened to Dororo, or, you know, Haya, my bad, where every time he gains something back, you know, it's just a tragedy. So I feel like that could have happened in this episode, but thankfully it didn't. And I don't know if the events of this episode was actually after the whole meal arc, like, you know, with what happened in the last episode, or if the people that are animating, you know, Dororo decided to put this episode in just to give us kind of like a breather episode. Because honestly, when you really think about everything that's happened, it's been non-stop sadness, and it can be a little bit I guess heavy on the shoulders, to where you might not even want to continue watching, because it's just so sad. It's like there is no hope. Like, every time something good seems to be going on, something bad replaces it, and it's much, much worse. And I'm glad this episode was there, because it allows people to be reassured that it's not all doom and gloom in this story. There is good things that can happen, and even at the end of the episode, it was distinctively different. I mean, Haya, he snickered. He laughed at Dororo when, you know, he almost, like, got, you know, bit by a spider and he was about to smash a spider or whatever at the end. He snickered at the man and walked on. It was the first time that Haya has ever shown that type of emotion, being able to, like, laugh and show happiness. And so, I do like that. It's a very distinct difference compared to what we have seen. And this might be easily one of my favorite episodes yet of the story, because, as I've said, I'm a sucker for these type of themes, like with the romance and stuff, but I also just like the lessons that Haya learned and Dororo learned as well, that not all enemies they face or these monsters are necessarily bad individuals. So, anything else really to get into? I guess... Oh, and one more thing I have to clarify before I end this video. And I do wonder if the Spider-Woman will ever be relevant ever again. Because, I mean, for them to spend an entire episode focused on this character, showing us for the first time that a demon isn't necessarily 100% evil, or a demon can change and be good for people, it does make me wonder if this will be the last time we see these two characters, or if maybe next episode might carry on the events of this episode and they could eventually come back to help out Haya and Dororo. I mean, it might be a similar circumstance to the old man that's been following around Haya and Dororo every so often. He pops up and he helps them out. Maybe the Spider Girl and, you know, the dude could potentially just pop back up in some places to help out when the situation needs it. That could be a thing, but I don't really know. I just hope this isn't the last time we actually see these characters. Overall, this series has just so much potential to continue being probably one of the best series of the anime season. I still cannot believe how good this has been. I mean, I never would have thought starting Dororo would get me this emotionally attached to the characters to where I want to know what happens each individual week, and easily in my top 3 favorites from this season. And I cannot wait to see how the conclusion of the story happens and what, you know, Haya's decision is going to be when he gains back everything. But I think I'm going to leave this video at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, because for some reason, even if you click the subscribe button, you don't always get notified. So if you do want to get notified for whenever, you know, a video is uploaded, please hit that bell icon down below. And even if you don't hit it for me, at the very least, do it for the YouTubers you do care about, because, you know, it helps us out a lot. It allows you guys to see the content coming in. And so with that, I'll leave you guys at that. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Be safe, Chibi out.